not changed. It just went from one generation to the next. And I thought, I've been doing funerals quite a bit here lately. I thought, sometimes I think we preachers are more sorrowful at some funerals than the families are. When we're losing somebody that's kind of special and somebody that is good and they're a solid Christian, and you wonder, God, did you get the wrong address? Why did you take them? I could give you a list of some. Kind of like the guy who was married for the 4th time, and he told his buddy, he said, the Lord took her of cancer, and he took the other one of a heart attack, and took the other one in a car wreck, and I've been married about 2 months, and the Lord can have this one if he wants her. I just read this stuff. You leave the notes here, and I'll read it. My responsibility is to work the wheel. That's my mission. My mission is not to direct the choir. I don't mess too much with the music program. I probably will mess with it less than any pastor that will ever stand in this pulpit. My job is to work the wheel. My job isn't to be a politician. My job is to work on the wheel. My mission isn't to go down and spend my time at the city hall. My calling is to stand on the wall and to tell somebody that Jesus is mighty to save. Billy Graham said, if you're not going to preach everywhere you go, it doesn't make any sense to go everywhere to preach. Do I need to repeat that? Charles Spurgeon says, if God calls you to preach, don't stoop to be a king. Because anything less than a preacher is a step down if you're not in the will of God. Too many of us aren't just satisfied with preaching. We think, and I watch the papers, it seems like somebody wants to be a bishop or they want to be an apostle. They want to be this and they want that title. And when it's all said and done, God's not going to call you a bishop. And God's not going to call you Dr. So-and-so, and it's not Reverend so-and-so. He's going to call you servant. Well done, thou good and faithful servant. You stayed at the wheel, and you kept trying to work with humanity, and you kept trying to shape lives, and you kept trying to hold it together, and you didn't give up when they got marred. You're a faithful servant. Now enter into the kingdom of heaven. What's wrong with being a preacher? What's wrong with being a worker on the wheel? If we get too involved in other stuff, it begins to water down our preaching and it dilutes our preaching. Preaching in politics kind of reminds me of ice cream and manure. The ice cream that is the gospel, it won't hurt the manure that's the politics. But the politics and the manure can certainly ruin the ice cream of the gospel. So you know what I've decided to do? I struggle with it. I'm going to stay at the wheel, preach the gospel, in season and out of season, and when people want to hear it and when they don't want to hear it. That's my mission. That's what I'm called to. And so he went down to the potter's house, and Jeremiah said, I saw him working on the wheel. That's the potter's mission. Then I want you to notice that moment and that motion of the potter as the wheel is turning. Fact of the matter, it only slows down to let you get on the wheel and to get off of the wheel. About the time you're born, you climb on the wheel of life, and it's about to throw you and about to spin you off, and around it goes. And then one day when it stops, the mortation comes. Reminds me of the old man. His wife wouldn't hardly allow him out of sight. And he heard the circus was in the little town, and when she wasn't looking, he slipped in and got all the pocket change and slipped out of the house and went down to the circus, and he saw a merry-go-round and had never ridden on one. And he got on that merry-go-round, and it began to go round and round. He rode that thing all day until he used up all of his money. And just as he was getting off that night, his big old wife stepped up and caught him and said, just look at you. You've done nothing but go in circles. You spent all of your money, and you're getting off where you got on, and you haven't been anywhere. And sometimes, if we're not careful and we don't find the purpose of God for our lives, we've done nothing but spin around and around going nowhere. But it's on the wheel of life that God begins to reach his hand in and begins to try to draw our attention and tries to help us to find what our calling is and what our purpose is. It's the motion of that wheel turning, and the clay's brought in and slapped down on the potter's wheel. Now, I don't know just when you may have to get on the potter's wheel in a special way. He told Jeremiah to go down there. I've been there in the hospital when somebody had been rushed in and I get the call to come and they're hovering between life and death. They're on the wheel. It may be when all of your money runs out and you don't know which way to turn, and suddenly you realize the hand of the potter is touching your life and you're on the wheel. It may be when that one that promised you that they'd be faithful all the way to death, and now they're standing in a courtroom with a young wife with him, or a young bride with him, or a young hubby with him that's a bit younger. And you're brokenhearted. And you're in a lawsuit of your life. And the wheel's about to spin you off. It may be when somebody's lied on you and hurt your good name, and it seems like there's not a thing you can do to stop it. And the wheel's turning.